wait, I'll see it tomorrow. But he is excited about what you're going to see today. So please give him your full attention. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to present this. Many of you have seen some of these presentations in the past. This church is absolutely amazing in its support of missions in general, and specifically the La Croix New Testament mission in Haiti. So I appreciate the opportunity. I thank Pastor Steve for allowing me the time to present this to you. So oh yeah, the clicker. I might need that.
We had everything ready.
While he's doing that, there is a brochure. I know many of you have seen it. It describes the mission of the La Croix New Testament mission, and specifically the La Croix Honeybee Project. I've restocked the racks on either side, so if you're not familiar or if you'd like to refamiliarize yourself with it, be sure to pick one up on your way out. Thank you. All right, we're going to start off here. This is sunrise coming up over the mountains to the east of the mission, from standing on the mountain to the west of the mission. And then from the mountain on the west of the mission, this is looking down on the mission itself. The original mission was about 3.5 acres. Those of you who know the story know that this church, or members of this church, were intimately responsible for the purchase of this land back in the early 80s. My original intention was to take you with us on a trip on the mission trip, so that you would have a feeling of what it's like. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to take pictures in airports. In fact, if TSA sees your camera out, they give you a hard time. And so the first time I felt comfortable getting my camera was in the Miami International Airport, when we were sitting there waiting to take our flight. I'm sorry if I'm in front of some of you. My apologies. I'll work my way over here.
I was just waving at Eva and Deborah.
This is Eva Reed and Debbie Dunn. There were actually people from 4 churches that went on our mission trip this past January. Eva and Debbie are from Tridestone New Beginnings Church, which is on the old Swifton Commons property down near Roselawn. There was the bulk of our group came from Pastor Mike Smith's church and New Beginnings Church in Goshen. There were 3 of us from our church who went, myself, Larry Smith, and my wife Debbie. And then we had 2 people from Owensville United Methodist Church who were there. We had 2 young people with us, and this is what they do. Debbie had the window seat, so she took a few pictures as we approached Haiti. And I mean, this is, whoops, I'll get it here. This is actually a village right here that you're looking at. And then as the airplane drops down to land at Port-au-Prince Airport, what's interesting here is you can see the shadow of the airplane right there. And then getting out of the airport, I mean, everything is jam-packed. The streets are jam-packed. I mean, now there are, from when I first went, there are now actually road signs, speed limits, and occasionally a traffic light. Yeah, it's changed a lot. But this hasn't changed. These are called tap-taps. And this is how most people in Haiti get around. You can see there is actually a bench seat along each side, and even a seat outside the tailgate for people to sit on. And the other way, they used to call the school buses cameos. And they used to almost all be painted light blue, but nowadays you see more and more of them that have not changed from the color that they were. Most of them are shipped in from the United States. This I thought was an interesting contrast with the cell phone tower, and cell phones have really changed Haiti. And this is how most tap-taps are on their way to or from Port-au-Prince, loaded to the gills. You know, at least a dozen people packed in the back. On the way out of Port-au-Prince, we pass the Olympic soccer stadium, and this is where the Haitian Olympic soccer team practices and plays. It's grown up. It's more than that, because at one time, these trees were not big enough for you to see. Now you can hardly see the structure. So, well, things grow fast. With a 12-month growing season, that's one thing I've noticed, is things grow incredibly quick in the tropics. This whole hillside here is now shacks, houses of different quality. After the earthquake in 2010, this was a tent city. This is where many of the people who were displaced from Port-au-Prince by the earthquake moved. And then they just stayed there. And they just started building houses and making a little bit better structures as the tents wore out. This is something that was new. We had not seen this before. This is a memorial that was built to those who died in the earthquake of 2010. They still don't know how many people died, but they suspect it was in the neighborhood of over 200,000. Street vendors lining the streets in almost every town you go through. And then this is not an uncommon sight either. It's a broken down truck which went off the road and held up traffic. Now we're at the mission. And this is the main gate into the mission, which has been rebuilt since last year when we were there. This is a view from the balcony in the area where the Americans stay. This is the school building. Yes, they planted an alley of trees coming in. Yes, or wait till you see the next one. Pastor Pierre's wife, Ermith, is she and I get along great because we think alike. She is constantly improving the appearance of the mission, doing projects and just making the place look great. This year, there is a row of trees along each side of the driveway coming in, which eventually will, in horticulture, landscape design, we would call that an alley of trees. This is the balcony where we kind of hang out. And again, the balcony, and it was being used to sort shoes, which the shoes were a big part of our project down there this year to distribute shoes to many of the elementary school children. This was an interesting picture on the balcony one day. These are all 4 women from Tried Stone and Pastor Pierre. You have to understand that until a few years ago, rarely would an African-American missionary come to Haiti. These people are considered very, very special. And, you know, the Haitians treat them differently than they treat us. But it's interesting, and they have an opportunity to relate to the Haitians in a different way than we do. This is now the courtyard, Jan. They removed all the concrete except for pathways, and they planted grass. It used to be that this area right here was solid concrete, and I have pictures and pictures of this area filled with kids playing soccer, filled with school benches that we have built. But now,
Used to be a swing set.
thanks to our MIT, this is what the courtyard looks like now. At first, she took this little area over here and started converting it into an area of beauty. But now, and actually all of these concrete tracks are laid out just so they can back the truck in. They stop the truck right here, and then they can wheelbarrow supplies over into the storage areas.
I was going to say, those rice distribution out, because we usually did it right there.
Yeah, I know. Well, now we do it over here in this corner. This is the solar system. There are 39 panels, and it is absolutely amazing what that solar system is capable of powering. One evening, you have to understand that the Haitians are always burning something. But one evening, there were fires on the mountain. These fires are actually miles away. But it was pretty spectacular at night, and a number of us took pictures of it. This is the area on the roof where we gather, sometimes in the evenings. Our group gathered here every morning for devotion. We took turns having the devotion. I took the first day to kind of get things started. This was a very unusual trip for us because our normal mission team leadership wasn't with us. And although I have gone on missions here for many, many years, this was the first time that I felt the responsibility of being in charge. And it's not something that I enjoyed, although it all worked out great. Whoops, how did that happen? This is Debbie Dunn. She brought with her this horn, which is the type of horn that may have been used in the region of Israel during the time of Jesus. She called it a shofar. And it was very interesting. I can't exactly remember the meanings of the different blasts from the horn, but she demonstrated that for us. The primary mission, what the mission was started for, was education. The literacy rate in Haiti is and has been very, very low. Pastor Pierre's goal when starting this mission in the early 1980s was to educate the children of Haiti and change the culture by developing adults who could read, write, and function and continue to learn throughout their lives. This school now has in the neighborhood of 1,500 plus students, preschool to grade 12. And every morning, these are the older elementary school kids and the high school kids line up every morning. That's the preschool kids. They line up over here in front of this gate for the flag raising. And they sometimes they have a little band that would play. They did not have the band playing this year, but they all sing the national anthem and raise the Haitian flag. And this is one of the preschool classrooms with some of our team in there. I think they're singing, what is it? Head, shoulders, knees, and toes.
That and Jesus Loves Me.
Yes.
With sign language.
And then the kids sing it back to them in Creole. And whereas the kids used to have the entire courtyard for play, they now have to gather in different little locations like this. And I'm not sure what they're playing here, but if I had to guess, it has something to do with put your right hand in, put your left hand in, and shake it all about. But anyway. And this is where the preschool kids eat their lunch. That's another big part. When the mission started, the mission did not feed the students, but it's very difficult to learn on an empty stomach. And a lot of these kids come to school here because this is the only hot meal they get every day. And so usually they serve rice and beans, but in recent years they've started mixing in some new things that include fish and to get different nutrients and minerals into the children's diet. And this is a gathering of the elementary school children in the church. I wasn't here for this. I'm not sure exactly what was going on. This is Paige Reed, Eva Reed's granddaughter. She was with us this time. It was her first time there. And this is Pastor Evans. He is the pastor to the main mission church. And I think he was asking each one of the Americans to tell the kids a little bit about themselves, and then they would speak it in English, and then Pastor Evans would translate it to the children. The main way that the mission is sponsored is by sponsor children. And most, if not all, of the people that go on this mission trip have their own sponsor children. The fact that we go allows us the opportunity to meet with our own sponsor children. This is Diana Willey. She actually runs the sponsorship program for New Beginnings Church, and this is her sponsor child. And then Debbie and I, we sponsor Vodson. I'm not exactly sure how old. When we started sponsoring him, he was 6. He's probably 8 now, maybe older. He's a lot bigger, I know that. And then this is Rick and Barb Fair and their 2 sponsor children, Larry and Sharon's sponsor child. We did a distribution in a little village. It's probably the closest village, or one of the closest villages to the main mission, La Croix. One thing I haven't mentioned is that, yes, they educate about 1,500 students at the main mission. They also have 6 or 7 remote schools in villages because, it's difficult, especially for the elementary age children, to come all the way to the mission school. This is the church in a village called Paco. Paco, well, I could tell you a whole lot about it. I'll just say it is probably the poorest village that the mission serves. This is the road to Paco, which this is nothing unusual. This is actually a very good road.
Yeah.
And this is the school. The school buildings in Paco are in very bad condition. There were a lot of problems. Pastor Pierre took over this school, but he could not invest money in it to improve until he had a clear deed to the property. That has now been overcome, and there are actually other pictures, which I did not include, of them digging a foundation for a new school building. This is inside the church with our group preparing to do a distribution. And this is a little girl with a bag of rice. The kids are so much fun. And Debbie Dunn loves to pull their leg. Again, rice distribution. This is the gizmo that we use for filling gallon bags. We dump 50-pound bags, and then there's a little gate. Katie's opening the gate, and who's on this side? Diana? I think that might be Diana. But anyway, this is how we fill the bags. And of course, rice is so precious. We put a big tub underneath it to catch anything that might spill. Here we're going through clothing that is going to be distributed and organizing it. And then in some instances, we do distribute entire 50-pound bags of rice. Culture's a little different in Haiti. Terry Dean has done his best to try to change this situation. If there is a woman and a man together, Terry lifts the bag up and sets it on the man's head. But generally speaking, the women carry the load. Now we are up in another remote village, which is up on a mountain. This village is called La Coupe, and we hauled all of the rice and the clothing up there, and we're on the porch of the old school building getting organized to do a distribution. And again, the woman carrying the big bag, and then fitting some of the kids for shoes. I'm not sure what they are handing out here. Debbie, you were there. Do you know what they're handing out here?
They were giving them some of the clothing that was left.
Okay. And these are some of the dresses that Sharon and various other people have made. They're called pillowcase dresses. Now this picture, we're actually back at Paco doing the distribution. This is Dan and Medell Beck. I'm not going to give you a big, long history. I think I met Dan Beck for the first time in 2012. This mission has grabbed a hold of his heart, and he and Medell are there for 2 years. And this is their project. Their project is to develop a vocational school to provide education beyond the high school level. We are sitting in the new computer room, and since this picture was taken, they have actually received brand new laptop computers and a networking system that another group from Pennsylvania shipped down. So this is the new computer room. This is the sewing room, and the sewing class is already in session. Each desk has a workstation. Most of them have their own electric sewing machine. Since this was taken, additional sewing machines have been shipped down, but this is an example of what's being taught. I don't know if you can make this out, but they have different types of stitches. They have measuring, especially using the English system of measuring because they're more accustomed to the easier metric system, although we don't think so. So those two classrooms were created by building a second floor onto the existing cafeteria. And in addition to that, in order to house the rest of the upcoming vocational studies, this building right here is under construction. And several of our team members worked with Dan on actually they put the trusses on, they installed the purlins, and they installed most of the metal roofing. And this is Dan and Ed Averwater, who's from Owensville. Larry also helped every day with this project, and I didn't have a good picture of him. I apologize, Larry. I had one picture of him in the shadows. Well, I'll tell you where it is. This is the wall adjacent to the church. This is the front wall along the road, and this is the wall that runs down the side of the church. This building is so close to the wall that in order to work on it, they had to put a ladder up on here, and you might notice there's concertina wire on top of that wall. And they had to put plywood, they had to customize everything so that the plywood protected them from the concertina wire so they could work on this. And eventually, once the area that the joint vocational school is in is secure, then they will tear this wall down. But right now, that building is like 2.5 feet from that wall.
Is the new church going to be built on the other side?
Yes, the new church is also going to be, this is the old soccer field.
Okay.
I wanted to bring this up because this is such a unique project. Terry Dean, who many of you know, has over the years developed a very special relationship with Lamar Philippe. And this is a shot of Lamar's house from up on the mountain. Terry Dean went to work, provided much of the financing and quite a bit of the work to build this house for Lamar. Lamar owned the property, and Sunday afternoon after church, a group of us took a walk down to visit Lamar. And this is a close-up of his new house. This is Lamar. When Terry and I first started going to Haiti, and Doug, this guy is amazing. He has a leg that is withered to the point, and he was born this way, that you couldn't imagine him even working. He would be right up on the roof with us. And he would move around that roof. He would do whatever needed to be done. He was just absolutely amazing. Well, in recent years, his health has failed, but he made such an impression on us that Terry especially felt called to provide him with his own home. This is their dining room. All of that furniture is built by hand. Actually, was built right up the street from where we're standing. And this is the whole group of us that walked down to visit Lamar. Lamar, that's his daughter right there. I don't see his wife. She must be hiding back there because she was there. Now we're moving on to beekeeping. This is a group of us walking through the fields. I have not mentioned this, but in addition to the school, the mission also includes a medical clinic, a maternity ward, and a farm. Now, the medical clinic is self-sustaining. They charge, and in recent years, they have actually made the medical clinic self-sustaining, so it does not require any financial input. Although they love having American doctors and nurse teams come and help with treatment. They don't have a full-time doctor, they have full-time nurses, and they have a doctor who is frequently there, but that doctor also has a practice in Gonaive, which is the nearest town 10 miles away. But that's how he primarily earns his income, is in his private practice, but he spends a lot of time here. We are walking through the bean fields on our way back to our apiary, which is at the very, very back of the farm, which surrounds the medical clinic. And here we are, we're back in the apiary now with one of our beehives and another. and some bees actually sneaking in and out of there. Actually, they're not sneaking in and out. They move, we hope that they move freely and collect lots of honey and nectar, or nectar and pollen. Now, a lot of what the beekeeping team did is woodwork. There's an amazing amount of woodwork that goes into that beehive. And I'm not sure what we're setting up to build here. This fellow right here, Andrew Crowden, is amazing at creating tools. He took a circular saw and turned it into a table saw. He also created a router table, and we built a lot of custom woodworking. We also built 6 of these wooden toolboxes, one for each one of my beekeeping students, and one for Dufour, the gentleman who I have been working with bees down there for a number of years. This is one of my students, Monfort. I think what I'm having him do is our cut was not real clean on the end of that board, and he's using a chisel to clean it up. And again, we're in the woodworking shop. This is a relatively new thing where they actually have a woodworking shop in this room. When we leave, it's closed up and locked and contains many of the tools required for doing woodworking. By the way, the solar system provides the electricity to run these tools all day long, in addition to the lighting and other electrical uses that the mission has. That solar system is amazing.
Heating the water.
Well, pumps for the water, yes. Yes. Don't have a lot of safety guards, and you have to be careful. These are the toolboxes that we built, and these are honey super boxes under construction. This is Dufour in his office. In addition to helping with beekeeping, Dufour is the accountant for the mission. And this is a day that a small group of us spent. We went down to do the initial investigation as to how the bees are doing. Actually, that wasn't the initial investigation. This is where we were changing. But some of my team got distracted by what we're doing here is I had them build these hive stands for us. We had them all sitting on concrete blocks, which in Haiti is not a real good idea because ants and other insects and things can easily live in the blocks and cause problems for the hive. So I had these rebar hive stands made, which it's a lot easier to prevent the bees and so forth from climbing up the rods. This is a sample box of the bee equipment. This time we're far enough along that I provided each one of my 5 students with a toolbox full of the basic beekeeping tools that they needed. And that includes a smoker, a hive tool, gloves. In the background you can see the veil and jacket, and these are a pair of pants for them. So that was their basic toolkit, and these are the 5 students, and I'm distributing those toolkits to them. Every time I'm there, the last 2 times since I've had the students, I try to do 2 or 3 lessons during the course of the week, and also try to take them down to the apiary. Now I don't have to be so careful because they can suit up, and I can, I don't like newbies to get stung. It's not a good way to introduce people to beekeeping. It's inevitable, but now this is climbing up to the top of the mountain. And every year there is a group that does this. I haven't done it recently, but it's quite a hike to get up to the top of the mountain. And they leave early enough in the morning to get up to the top of the mountain and see the sunrise over these mountains back here. Also, the mountains are, I don't know what the goat population is on the mountains, but it's amazing how many goats. It seems like they just wander freely everywhere. But I asked Pastor Pierre, I said, how do they know whose goat's whose? And all he did was said, they know. Another view from up on the mountain. And this is the group this year that hiked up to the top of the mountain. And then getting down. Just as hard to get down, or harder for me to get down than it is to get up. And that is it. I really appreciate the opportunity to present this. There are a couple of little things, at this point, and if you look in the brochure, I estimated how much the beekeeping project was going to cost, and many people have been very generous and have donated to it. And I thank you for that, but at this point in time, I have spent just about all the money that's been raised. In fact, about, $900 worth of beekeeping equipment given to the students this past time. So we are in need of funding to continue the beekeeping project. Boy, I'm gonna have to put my glasses on. These are my notes. I did write them down. I can't remember what they say. Let's see. Oh, yeah. If you could, save plastic quart mayonnaise jars for me. The next time I go, I need them to make them into beef eaters. And I can't take the glass, it's too fragile, and it might get broken on the way down there, and I would rather have the plastic. And as many of you know, I am planning another mission trip for the Honeybee Project, leaving on May the 7th. And if anyone feels called to go, this will be a small team, and this might be a good opportunity, and you'd be welcome to join us. And again, I just want to thank this church for the amazing mission outreach. Thank you very much.
Thank you.